The first hints of spring touched Seoul with a gentle warmth that softened the harsh angles of the city's skyline. Cherry blossoms began to bud along the streets, their pale pink petals drifting lazily in the breeze. To most, it was a time of renewal, but for Ava, it was a chance to feel the city in a new way, to breathe it in as someone who had come seeking belonging, and perhaps a little more. She stood on the balcony of her father's mansion, staring out at the bustling city below, her thoughts lingering on Ji-ho. He had been in her mind constantly since that quiet evening in the penthouse, their conversation in the tea house, and the tender moments shared over late-night dinners. It wasn't just his charm that captivated her, though he had plenty of that. It was the way he looked at her, really looked, as if the world could vanish and they would remain, undisturbed, in their own orbit. And yet, reality was never far behind. Bora had grown colder in the past days, her elegance now a weapon pointed subtly but deliberately in Ava's direction. Even at family dinners, her glances carried barbed implications, as though she were silently testing every smile, every word, every gesture Ava made. Ava let out a small sigh, sipping her tea. She knew she had to be careful, but the warmth in her chest whenever she thought of Ji-ho reminded her why it was worth standing her ground. Meanwhile, Ji-ho moved through his own day with a strange mixture of purpose and calm he hadn't felt in years. For once, the world's whispers didn't dominate his thoughts. Instead, he found himself replaying the moments with Ava, the way she had laughed at his teasing, the quiet sincerity in her eyes, and the way she seemed to see him not as a scandal or a prodigal son, but as a man capable of change. His assistant, Min-jun, had already noticed. "Sir, your schedule is packed, but you seem different, focused. Is there a reason?" Ji-ho smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm finally paying attention to what matters, Min-jun." Min-jun raised an eyebrow. "A rare occurrence. Should I alert the tabloids or the board?" "Neither," Ji-ho replied with a smirk. "Keep it quiet, for now." Yet even with his determination to keep things private, the city's eyes were relentless. A local magazine had caught wind of Ava's presence at the gallery, accompanied by carefully cropped photos that implied intimacy. The headline screamed, "The heiress who captivates Seoul's bad boy billionaire." Bora, of course, had orchestrated the leaks, sending the photos anonymously to ensure maximum exposure. Watching from her private suite in the mansion, she sipped her wine and allowed herself a small, cruel smile. Let them squirm. Let everyone see them together. And when he realizes she isn't what he thinks, I'll be there to remind him who he should truly be with. She didn't notice the faint pang of unease that tugged at her chest as she watched Ji-ho's reaction to the headlines. He seemed unbothered. More than that, he seemed protective of Ava, a warmth she hadn't expected. Bora frowned, realizing she might have underestimated the bond forming between them. Ava's day was no less complicated. Calls from her father's office, introductions to extended family members, and inquiries from local media flooded her phone. But in the quiet moments, Ji-ho was there, sending a message to check if she had eaten, offering to walk her somewhere, or simply arriving unexpectedly with her favorite coffee. One such afternoon, Ji-ho appeared at her father's garden just as Ava was tending to the small bonsai trees he had encouraged her to nurture. "You spend more time with these trees than with me?" Ji-ho teased, leaning casually against the garden wall. Ava looked up, smiling. "They don't talk back," he chuckled. "Yet I somehow like you more than them." Her cheeks warmed. "Ji-ho, I mean it," he said softly, stepping closer. The breeze stirred her hair, and he reached out, brushing a stray curl behind her ear. "You've changed the way I see things, the way I see myself." Ava's breath caught. You make it easy to be better," she whispered. He smiled faintly, the kind of quiet, intimate smile that didn't need words to carry its meaning. In that moment, the world beyond the garden seemed to vanish. No tabloids, no Bora, no social expectations. Just the two of them standing on the cusp of something undeniable. But the city would not remain quiet for long. Bora wasted no time escalating her schemes. She invited a close family friend, a socialite with ties to multiple tabloids, to a private dinner under the guise of bonding with Ava. During the conversation, She planted subtle criticisms. Ava doesn't really understand Korean culture. She's trying too hard. You wouldn't want Ji-ho distracted by someone who isn't fully part of the family, would you? By the following morning, gossip columns were flooded with headlines and opinion posts. Billionaire heiress or interloper? The girl who stole Ji-ho's attention. Ava Han? Friend or foe to the Han family? The city buzzed with speculation. Ava, reading the posts with a frown, felt a wave of anxiety. She didn't want trouble. She didn't want Bora to win, and she certainly didn't want Ji-ho caught in the gossip storm. She typed a quick message to him. I don't know how to handle all this. His reply came almost immediately. Don't. Just be yourself. I'll handle the rest. That simple reassurance sent warmth coursing through her chest. It was one thing for a stranger to defend her. It was another entirely for Ji-ho Kong, the man who could have walked away without a thought, to stand by her side without hesitation. That evening, Ji-ho invited Ava to join him at a quiet rooftop overlooking the Han estate. The city sprawled endlessly below, lights flickering like stars fallen to earth. Do you ever get tired of all of it? Ava asked, gesturing toward the distant neon glow, the bustling streets far below. He shrugged. The attention? Not really. I've learned to ignore it, mostly, but I never thought I'd care about anyone enough to want to protect them from it. Ava's eyes widened slightly. Protect me? He smiled faintly. From the gossip, the whispers, the world that wants to turn everything into a spectacle. From Bora if she tries something again. From anyone who doesn't see you the way I do. Her chest tightened at the sincerity in his voice. I don't know what to say. You don't have to, he said, his gaze lingering on hers. I just want you to know that I see you. Truly see you. Ava felt a spark ignite in her chest. A fire of recognition, safety, and burgeoning love. She had expected challenges in this new life, but never had she imagined this. Someone who could make the world fade away simply by looking at her. Yet, even in their moments of closeness, Bora's shadow loomed. The next morning, she confronted Ava in the kitchen, her smile flawless yet cutting. Good morning, sister, Bora said sweetly. I heard Ji-ho brought you to the rooftop last night. How quaint. Ava stood her ground. Yes, he did, and it was nice. Bora's eyes glittered with a sharp edge. I see. I hope you know your place in this family. Ava, it's easy to get carried away by attention and forget what really matters. Ava's hands tightened around her cup. I know exactly who I am and what matters. You don't have to worry about me. Bora's lips curved into a deliberate, slow smile. Oh, I'm not worried yet. That evening, Ji-ho arrived to check on Ava. He found her on the balcony, gazing at the blooming cherry blossoms. You've been quiet today, he observed, stepping beside her. Ava exhaled softly. Bora, she's planning something. I can feel it. He nodded, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Let her plan. It won't change what's real between us. Ava looked up at him, her eyes reflecting the city lights. I believe you, Ji-ho. I really do. He smiled, leaning slightly closer. Then let's face whatever comes together. In that quiet moment, amidst the subtle glow of blossoms and city lights, the spark between them grew brighter. Love was no longer a distant possibility. It was here, tangible, fragile, and fiercely alive. And Bora, with all her schemes and whispers, had only succeeded in pushing them closer, igniting a fire that neither gossip nor jealousy could easily extinguish. The city lights of Seoul shimmered like scattered diamonds as the weekend approached, and with it, a gathering that had been the talk of the social scene for weeks, the exclusive Black Orchid Gala. Invitations were coveted, whispers about who would attend consumed the city's gossip networks, and the event promised not only luxury but subtle battles for status, influence, and power. Ava had received her invitation with mixed feelings. She wanted to attend, partly to experience Seoul's elite circles firsthand, partly because Ji-ho would be there, but her apprehension was undeniable. Bora, of course, had been the one to graciously include her, her sweet tone masking a web of intentions. This is your chance to shine, or stumble, Bora had said privately, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. Ava prepared that evening in her father's mansion, her reflection catching in the mirror as she adjusted the simple yet elegant silk dress she had chosen. It was understated but refined, a balance she hoped would allow her to blend in without drawing unwanted attention, or at least avoid Bora's scrutinizing gaze. Ji-ho arrived unexpectedly, stepping into the room with his usual casual elegance, dressed in a crisp, tailored suit that seemed effortless in its perfection. "You look incredible," he said softly, and Ava felt her chest tighten. The words weren't meant as flattery for gossip or tabloids. They were quiet, sincere, and meant only for her. "You're not too bad yourself," she teased lightly, trying to hide the warmth blooming in her chest. "I'm adequate," he replied with a smirk, slipping his arm lightly around her waist as they left together. It was a gesture both intimate and protective, sending a quiet message to the world. We're together, and we're not afraid. The gala itself was a spectacle of elegance and power. Crystal chandeliers reflected 1,000 points of light across the ballroom, while the sound of soft classical music intertwined with laughter, clinking glasses, and murmured introductions. Every corner held potential allies, subtle rivalries, and veiled critiques. Bora arrived not long after them, radiant as always, her every movement calculated. She greeted Ava with a saccharine smile. "Ah, sister, you look very striking tonight," she said, her words dripping with false sweetness. "Thank you," Ava replied cautiously, sensing the undercurrent of venom. "Ji-ho," Bora continued, shifting her attention. "So kind of you to bring her along. You know how delicate social appearances can be." Ji-ho's eyes narrowed just slightly, a subtle warning in the way he looked at her. "Ava's presence doesn't hurt anyone," he said evenly. Bora's lips curved into a polite smile, but her eyes glinted with mischief. She had already arranged the next stage of her plan: drink, distraction, and opportunity. As the evening progressed, Bora guided Ava subtly toward a private lounge adjoining the main ballroom. "Just relax," Bora said, offering a glass of champagne. "It'll help you feel part of the group." Ava hesitated. "I'm not sure. Just one glass," Bora insisted, her tone soft but insistent. "I'll be right here." Ava reluctantly took the glass, trying to maintain composure. She knew Bora's attention to detail and influence in this environment. Refusing outright would raise questions and draw more unwanted attention. From across the room, Ji-ho's gaze remained locked on her, subtly warning her with his eyes, but he trusted her judgment. She was stronger than he imagined. As the champagne loosened Ava's nerves, Bora skillfully encouraged her to mingle, subtly directing conversations toward topics that would make Ava appear naive to others. Ava felt the familiar sting of judgment, but Ji-ho quietly moved beside her when necessary, offering small corrections, explanations, and support that kept her grounded. It was in this moment, amid the subtle chaos of high society, that their connection deepened. Ji-ho leaned closer, speaking softly just for her to hear. "Don't let anyone make you feel less than you are. You belong here just as much as anyone else." Ava's heart fluttered. "Even Bora?" His gaze darkened slightly, protective and steady. "Especially Bora." Their hands brushed briefly, a spark of warmth and reassurance passing between them. Ava felt a quiet strength in that touch, a subtle promise that, no matter what games Bora played, they were in this together. But Bora was relentless. She had anticipated the protective instincts between Ji-ho and Ava and decided to escalate. She orchestrated a situation designed to make Ava appear vulnerable, isolated, and manipulated by the environment around her. As the evening wore on, Bora suggested another round of drinks. Ava, unsure but trusting Ji-ho's quiet cues, accepted, thinking it would be harmless. Bora's expression held a barely perceptible smirk, her plan unfolding in the shadows. Meanwhile, reporters and paparazzi, tipped off anonymously, began hovering near the periphery of the gala. They captured carefully cropped moments of Ji-ho guiding Ava through the crowd, laughing, holding her hand ever so lightly. Social media began to buzz, hashtags appearing almost instantly, hashtag heir, hashtag Ji-ho and mystery girl, hashtag gala romance. The pivotal moment came when Bora subtly suggested stepping out to a private balcony to admire the city view. Ava, slightly tipsy from the champagne and the stress of the evening, followed, unaware that Bora had already ensured no staff or guests would notice. "The night is beautiful," Bora said softly, feigning camaraderie. "You should enjoy it while you can." Ava smiled, letting herself relax for a moment. But the subtle tension was present, a quiet reminder of Bora's intent to isolate her, to make her appear careless, and, in Bora's twisted plan, to create an opportunity for public scandal. From inside, Ji-ho watched, sensing something amiss. He moved swiftly through the crowd, intuition sharpening as he approached the balcony. "Ava!" His voice cut through the night air, grounding and protective. Ava turned, startled, relief flooding her face. "Ji-ho!" Without hesitation, he stepped forward and guided her away from the edge, subtly shielding her from potential embarrassment. His presence was calming, reassuring, a stark contrast to the tension Bora had tried to manufacture. Bora's plan had been to catch Ji-ho in a compromising situation with Ava, to record something that could be twisted and presented to their father as scandalous. But her manipulation backfired spectacularly. Instead of creating humiliation, the evening became a turning point. Ji-ho's care, attentiveness, and gentle protection of Ava amidst the chaos highlighted the depth of his feelings. For Ava, seeing Ji-ho's unwavering loyalty in such a high-pressure situation cemented the trust and emotional bond between them. As they returned to the ballroom, the reporters had already been redirected by Ji-ho's subtle management. A few carefully worded comments and strategic distractions ensured that no real scandal occurred. Bora, realizing her efforts had failed, clenched her fists in silent fury, her jealousy deepening. Later that night, in the quiet of Ji-ho's penthouse, Ava and Ji-ho reflected on the events. "You were incredible tonight," Ji-ho said softly, helping her remove her coat. Calm, composed, and brave, Ava smiled, leaning slightly against him. "I couldn't have done it without you." He shook his head. "You could have. You have strength I haven't seen in anyone before. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have to face it alone." Ava's heart swelled. She felt seen, cherished, and safe, emotions she hadn't dared hope for since arriving in Seoul. In that intimate space, the spark between them ignited fully. Words of reassurance, small touches, and quiet smiles replaced the tension of the gala, building a foundation for something profound. It was in these moments, away from the prying eyes of the city and the malice of Bora, that love began to root itself in their hearts. And Bora, from her secluded vantage point, seethed. Her plan to humiliate Ava and elevate her own position had failed, and now the bond between Ji-ho and Ava was unmistakable. The realization filled her with envy and frustration, feelings that would only fuel further schemes in the days to come. But for now, she had been thwarted. Ava had emerged stronger, more confident, and more deeply connected to Ji-ho than ever. The first true turning point in their journey had been reached. Love had sparked, resilience had been proven, and jealousy had intensified. The game had changed, and neither Ji-ho nor Ava would ever be the same. The week after the gala arrived like a storm quietly building on the horizon. Seoul streets buzzed with gossip about the Black Orchid Gala, and the social media feeds overflowed with speculations, candid photos, and whispered rumors about Ji-ho and Ava. Every article seemed to have been subtly influenced by Bora's growing irritation, yet she hadn't anticipated the way Ji-ho had shielded Ava during the event, which made their bond appear even more genuine to outsiders. Inside the mansion, Ava felt the city's whispers pressing closer. Messages from distant acquaintances, reporters she didn't know, and even polite inquiries from her father's business associates filled her phone. It was overwhelming, but Ji-ho remained a calm anchor in her increasingly chaotic life. "Don't read them," Ji-ho advised gently one afternoon, noticing Ava staring at her phone with furrowed brows. "They're trying to spin a story that doesn't exist. You don't have to feed it." Ava nodded slowly, swallowing the nervous tension in her throat. "It's just hard to ignore." Everyone's talking about us now. Let them, he said softly, brushing a stray curl from her face. The truth doesn't need headlines. It's right here. He gestured between them, a simple motion that carried a quiet, unshakable meaning. Ava's heart tightened. In this city of polished appearances, carefully curated personas, and hidden agendas, Ji-ho was one of the few constants she could trust. And every time he looked at her like this, every time he held her hand in public or quietly guided her through a crowd, her feelings deepened. Bora, on the other hand, was not idle. From her sleek apartment overlooking the Han estate, she plotted, recalculated, and schemed with meticulous precision. Every interaction she had with Ava was coated with subtle venom, a compliment designed to sting, a question crafted to unsettle. Her next move was audacious. A high-profile charity event, heavily covered by media, where Ji-ho was expected to make an appearance with his usual entourage. Bora knew that if she could create a situation where Ava appeared to be reckless, it would not only humiliate her but also test Ji-ho's loyalty. It's just a matter of timing, she thought, her lips curling into a faint, calculated smile. One misstep, one slip, and everything can be twisted. Ava, unaware of the brewing storm, prepared for the charity luncheon with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. She had learned to navigate some of Seoul's social expectations, but events like these, with journalists lurking and influential figures scrutinizing her every move, still made her nervous. Ji-ho arrived, as always, a calm presence amidst the chaos. He offered her his arm as they descended the grand staircase. "You look stunning," he said quietly, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "But you already knew that, didn't you?" Ava blushed, a small smile tugging at her lips. "You make it impossible not to feel self-conscious," she teased, gripping his arm lightly. "That's the idea," he replied, his grin a subtle mixture of amusement and sincerity. The event itself was a dazzling display of wealth and influence, a delicate dance of smiles, handshakes, and carefully crafted conversations. Journalists hovered near the edges, pens and cameras at the ready, while the city's elite mingled beneath crystal chandeliers that sparkled like frozen stars. Bora moved through the crowd with the precision of a strategist, subtly steering conversations, planting questions, and ensuring Ava was placed in situations that might make her appear naive or overly eager. Yet every time Bora attempted to create discomfort, Ji-ho was there, subtly guiding Ava, intervening when necessary, and ensuring that she remained composed. His protective instincts, once thought reckless and self-indulgent, now shone as something noble, something deeply attractive. Ava felt her admiration for him grow with every small gesture. A hand lightly placed on her back as they navigated a crowd, a whispered comment that reminded her of her worth, or simply his presence beside her, quiet and unwavering. Midway through the luncheon, Bora's true scheme unfolded. She invited a select group of influential guests to a private discussion room under the guise of important networking opportunities, knowing that Ava, eager to make a good impression, would follow. The room was small, filled with soft lighting that made shadows dance along the walls. Bora's guests subtly questioned Ava's knowledge of Korean culture, her experience in high society, and her connection to Ji-ho. Ava felt the pressure mounting, the tension in the air thick and suffocating. But Ji-ho, having noticed the redirection, quietly slipped into the room behind her. His presence was immediate and grounding. "Ava," he said softly, "don't let them make you doubt yourself. You belong here as much as anyone." Ava felt a rush of warmth, her heart swelling at his unwavering support. She took a deep breath, finding her voice. "Thank you. I know who I am, and I won't let anyone else define me." Ji-ho smiled faintly, pride and affection mixing in his gaze. The subtle bond between them, built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding, had grown into something undeniably strong. Bora watched from the doorway, her carefully constructed plan unraveling with each passing moment. Ji-ho's loyalty to Ava was palpable, his words and gestures reinforcing the emotional connection they had been nurturing since the rooftop balcony, the tea house, and the gala. Her envy deepened, twisting into a resolve that would not be easily deterred. If I can't ruin her tonight, I'll find another way. I'll show Ji-ho who he should truly care about. After the luncheon, Ji-ho suggested they leave early to escape the lingering media presence. They stepped into his sleek black Aston Martin, the city lights reflecting on the polished surfaces. "You were incredible today," Ji-ho said, his voice low as he started the car. "Calm, poised, and honest. Exactly who you are." Ava exhaled, a soft smile on her lips. "I only managed because you were there. You make me feel like I can handle things I never thought I could." He reached over, gently brushing a hand along hers, fingers interlacing in a quiet affirmation of closeness. "And I'll always be here, Ava. That's not going to change." Her heart ached with emotion. In a city that often felt cold, polished, and judgmental, here was a man who made her feel safe, cherished, and seen. The following days brought further subtle challenges. Headlines continued to speculate about Ji-ho and Ava. Interviews suggested that their bond was the most talked about social pairing of the season, and Bora continued her manipulations behind the scenes. But each time, Ava and Ji-ho's trust in each other grew. Simple gestures, a reassuring text, a hand on the small of her back, quiet words of encouragement, became anchors in a world intent on twisting every moment into drama. One evening, as they walked through the Han Estate's private gardens, the cherry blossoms finally in full bloom, Ji-ho paused to look at Ava. "You know," he said quietly, "I never thought anyone could make me care about myself. Not for headlines, not for my father, not for the world." Ava tilted her head, a small, tentative smile forming. "And now, I care about us," he said softly. "About you, about this." Ava's chest tightened, emotions she had tried to contain bubbling to the surface. "Me too," she whispered. "More than I ever expected." For the first time, the world beyond the blossoms, beyond the gossip, beyond Bora's scheming, didn't matter. There was only the two of them, and the spark that had been quietly igniting in the shadows was now a steady flame. Bora, watching from a distance, seethed. Her attempts to control the narrative, to manipulate perception, to pit doubt and fear against affection, had failed. Ji-ho and Ava's connection had grown stronger, their trust unshakable. Her jealousy was no longer subtle. It had become a driving force, one that promised further schemes, cunning plans, and calculated moves. But for now, she could only watch as her carefully constructed web unraveled, and as the two people she sought to separate drew closer together. The stage was set, the tension was rising, and the spark between Ji-ho and Ava threatened to ignite into a blaze no scheme could extinguish. Seoul's skyline shimmered under a crescent moon as the city pulsed with life. The streets buzzed with activity even late at night, a constant hum that mirrored the tension quietly building in the Han estate. Ava had spent the day in meetings with her father's advisors, trying to learn the rhythm of this new life she had stepped into. She felt more confident now, more grounded, yet a subtle unease lingered. Her instincts told her something was brewing. She could feel it in the way Bora's smile had been too controlled during lunch, in the casual but calculated remarks made by certain staff, and in the soft undercurrent of gossip floating through the halls. Bora's jealousy was no longer subtle. It had taken shape, refined and dangerous. Meanwhile, Ji-ho's world had grown more complex. He had been trying to manage the ripple effects of their social appearances while balancing his responsibilities as heir to one of Korea's largest conglomerates. But unlike before, he now had someone by his side whose presence grounded him. Ava had become more than a companion. She was a confidant, a safe harbor amidst the chaos. That evening, Ji-ho arrived at the mansion earlier than usual, his presence a reassuring constant for Ava. "Are you ready for tonight?" he asked, his dark eyes scanning her face. "For what?" Ava replied, her voice cautious. "The Black Pearl Gala," he said, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Bora's going to be there. She's probably cooking up another one of her little schemes." Ava sighed. "I was hoping tonight could just be normal." Ji-ho took her hands gently. "It doesn't have to be a battlefield. Just stay close to me, and we'll get through it together. Her chest tightened at his words. She realized just how much she relied on him, not only for protection but for emotional stability. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. As the night descended, the gala unfolded in all its grandeur. Crystal chandeliers reflected golden light onto the polished marble floors, and the soft strains of a string quartet filled the air. Socialites in gowns and tuxedos mingled with grace, sipping champagne and exchanging calculated pleasantries. Bora entered the room like a predator in silk, her smile flawless but her eyes sharp. She had been planning tonight's scheme for weeks, every step carefully orchestrated to isolate Ava and place her in a vulnerable situation, all while ensuring Ji-ho could be caught in a moment that could be spun into scandal. Her plan was simple. Lure Ava to a private room under the pretense of a networking opportunity, get her slightly inebriated, and then manipulate the setting to suggest an inappropriate encounter with Ji-ho. Bora's mind worked like clockwork, anticipating every move, every possible reaction. Ava, unaware of the trap, followed Bora into a quieter wing of the mansion, where soft music played and the lighting was dimmed to a gentle glow. "Come on, I wanted you to meet some influential friends," Bora said smoothly, her hand brushing lightly against Ava's arm, a touch meant to appear friendly, but laced with calculated intent. Ava hesitated but allowed herself to be guided, trusting her instincts and, unknowingly, Bora's manipulation. She didn't notice the subtle glances exchanged among Bora's selected guests, a silent understanding that they were part of the plan. From across the room, Ji-ho observed, his instincts on high alert. He could feel that something was off, a subtle tension in Ava's posture that made his chest tighten. Quietly, he excused himself from the main ballroom and followed at a distance, ensuring he could intervene if necessary. Bora offered Ava a glass of wine, insisting gently. "Just a little to relax," she said sweetly. "It's stressful meeting new people." Ava hesitated, but the warmth of Ji-ho's earlier words lingered in her mind. "Trust yourself, trust him." She took a small sip, trying to remain composed. The evening seemed ordinary at first, filled with polite introductions and soft laughter. But Bora's subtle manipulations began to take effect. She steered conversations in ways that highlighted Ava's unfamiliarity with certain social expectations, prompting gentle but pointed corrections from the guests. Ava felt the anxiety rise, a tight knot forming in her stomach. She realized she was under Bora's scrutiny, though the intent was still cloaked in casual elegance. Suddenly, Bora's plan escalated. She suggested a more secluded balcony for a quieter discussion, convincing Ava that it was part of the networking experience. The balcony overlooked the sprawling city, glittering like a field of lights. "Isn't it beautiful?" Bora said, her tone soft and deliberate. "You should enjoy moments like this. It's easy to get lost in the crowd." Thank you for watching. Episode 2 ends here. Find out more about the story in episode 3 coming up soon. If you enjoyed the story, leave us a comment. Also share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever a new story is made.